Warning, the following video has flashing lights and also includes content that may be deemed inappropriate for some viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. Who dares awaken me from my slumber, hunting the shadows? Of course, Dr. Dennis Carroll. I see you even did bring me something to feed on because I am so hungry. Absolutely tasty. A little bit more messy than preferred, yet no worries. I will have to finish cleaning up the mess later. Without further ado, it is time for Dr. Carroll and myself to collect some contracts that are owed to me.
My creatures of the night. Yes, once again, you are tuning in to Midnight Lycanthropy here on LordeStarfox Radio. We do have one of the residential scientists of the Midnight Society, of course, Dr. Dennis Carroll, already sitting around the late night fire as we again burn the midnight timber into the early hours of the morning. Tonight, we are going to allow Dr. Dennis Carroll to once again fill up the good old file cabinet with some excellent information. Dr. Carroll, I do have a few contracts that are overdue. Are you ready to take a walk into the madness?
Absolutely. I live there most of the time, so it's just going back home for me, brother.
I hear that.
Well, tonight I was going to talk a little bit about another favorite subject of mine, the shadow walkers. That's an interesting thing that is deep in folklore and history, especially cryptid history kind of a thing. And the shadow walkers, I'm going to explain that before we get into it. The shadow walker is actually a higher echelon of a skinwalker. Like, I think the other skinwalkers are kind of scared of them because they walk between worlds and in liminal places, and they are able to do things more so than your average skinwalker can do. And here's the freaky part, my friend: they are able to astral project themselves even into your dreams and into your waking thoughts. We've often talked, about people just, take a pause for a minute and start thinking about something, kind of that way off look in their eyes. They're daydreaming a little bit. That's not even a safe place from the shadow walkers. And the reason they are basically called shadow walkers is they walk between worlds. They are walking between the equinox, the sleep and being awake, that liminal place, and they hang out actually in physical liminal places like bridges, mountain passes, crossroads. Oh, yes, they hang out at crossroads. Yeah. And other places like that, especially in the area, kind of way out places like swamps or deserts. That's where you're more likely to run or have an interaction with a shadow walker. And there are also, here's the interesting thing: they're not only skinwalkers, shadow walkers, but there are European like shadow walkers. A lot of shadow walkers operate in the Appalachian Mountains. They're everywhere, wherever witchcraft is. you will find those who practice shadow walking. Okay, yeah, I'm going to tell a little bit about the way shadow walkers supposedly do. Like I mentioned earlier, they can interject themselves even into your dreams. You know, when you're in that state between being awake and almost asleep, and you kind of have a dream sequence like going on, you have what we call REM, REM, rapid eye movement. And this is the state where you're between asleep and awake. And this is a liminal area. Now, by liminal, we mean these are in between eerie and uncanny places to be or situations to be in. And even these can be physical places as well, or what we term as in the old days, we call them haunted places. And they definitely are haunted sometimes by the shadow walkers. And here's the freaky part, they almost border on the ability to possess people. They can, to a certain extent, hold a power over your mind and twist reality to the point where they can get you to see or feel or believe what they want you to. This is very dangerous territory because they are using what we've often called the glamour. You know, the glamour, and I'm not talking about movie magazine stuff here. I'm talking about magical glamour. This is very uncanny, not just uncanny, but very downright dangerous. And I've talked about this before. That is what witchcraft is. The real witchcraft is geared to actually change reality. That's what magic does. It takes one thing and changes it into something else. That's what your basic form of magic is. But it may not only be a thing that's changed, but it can be maybe even thoughts or mind sequences. It can even be your dreams. And this is a dangerous aspect because you are no more vulnerable when you are asleep, okay? And especially in the dream state, you are very vulnerable. I have my own self personally been attacked by demonic entities deep in the dream state. I've actually had to deal with them in my dream, inside my dream. I was conscious enough to know, hey, this is what's happening, and I got to deal with it. And this is freaky when these things happen, but they are real. This is something that really that people deal with. And some people will brush it off, my friend. It's, oh, I had a bad nightmare, I had a bad dream, a scary dream, or whatever. Maybe you didn't. Maybe there was something else going on there that you really don't realize. And here's the interesting thing about this, and I'll tell this to everyone listening. If you have a dream that stays with you, that you remember very vividly, and in most dreams we forget about before we finish our coffee in the morning. They're gone. They're gone like spider webs in the wind. You can't catch them. But if one stays around so that you remember, makes that much of an impression on you, you may not have had an actual dream. You may have had a dream encounter. And that's what happens with sometimes these shadow walkers. They are a higher category of witches here. They are able to do things that other witches would like to do and can't. And that's what makes them so dangerous. Okay, if you got that going on, and there are some witches that are like that, especially, and I've studied some, of course, being in my region, the Appalachian Mountains. You have some like Spearfinger, and you got other ones like the Raven Mocker. The Raven Mocker, I think I had an encounter one time with a Raven Mocker, and it affected me very profoundly. It was a very interesting encounter, unlike any that I'd ever had before, even with demons or other witches or ghosts or whatever the situation. It was profoundly different because these guys are hitting you on a different level altogether. And that's what's so downright dangerous is how you approach these things or how you even safeguard and, trying to keep these things away from messing with you because that is what they can do. They can launch a very deep and, like I said, very profound spiritual attack against you. Um, I've said this often, in the past. I'd rather you come up and just jump on me physically than attack me spiritually. Because you can do more with the physical attack. You can defend yourself better than you can with a spiritual attack. Okay. And I actually, one time, and I don't know if I ever mentioned this, but one time I had an entity, and this was demonic. It attacked me and attached itself to my back. I was on the set of stairs. This was a guardian demon that I encountered. It was left there by a very dark and very powerful witchcraft. And you know, a lot of these things that we encounter, not, you know, even bordering into the cryptid, a lot of what we're encountering, my friends, is witchcraft. Okay, it is witchcraft, usually on a very dark, deep, and very dangerous level. And that's what happened to me. This thing grabbed my back and tried to push me down the stairs. I could feel its claws in my back. Later on, I had bruises from this. There's just something that really manhandled me pretty good, you know? And it did. I actually reached back. I could feel this thing. Couldn't see it. That's the freaky part. You can't see it with your eyes. But it's there, nevertheless. It's real. And I grabbed this thing without being able to see it. I could feel it. I grabbed it and actually physically threw it off of me down the stairs. It meant to harm me very badly. It meant to push me down, and this is a very long flight of stairs. Afterwards, you know, I found out exactly what was going on. That long story I won't tell you today. It's a very interesting case. But that area had been marked and had been a placement of a guardian demon there because dark witchcraft had gone on there. And a warlock, this was a warlock that actually put this demon there or turned it loose because he left it there sort of a trigger, a booby trap with whoever came along because he was made to get out of that area. He had a shop there. I won't go on deep into the detail, but he has a shop and he was also dealing with other things beside witchcraft. And he did that for a purpose. He did it as a spiritual booby trap, if you want to put it that way. And this thing ambushed me on the stairs that night. At that point in the case, I had no idea what I was really dealing with here because this thing was hiding, waiting for the perfect moment to attack me. And when you are attacked spiritually and it goes over into the physical attributes of an attack, you are in deep trouble. Okay, you better have a plan. You better have something to do because when the spiritual goes over into the physical attack, that is really doubling up on you with the danger. Okay, and I have seen this happen many times in many different instances. But the shadow walker is able to do things like this. Is the shadow walker's territory where he or she is supreme in doing things, and they can actually astral project themselves. Now, you know, people that have, you know, the ability to remote view, or they're empaths, or whatever the situation, they can project their consciousness. Okay, this is a psychic thing that you can actually project your consciousness and see things or gain knowledge or whatever you're trying to accomplish. You can do this with remote viewing and stuff like that. But when you get into that category, you're just doing your consciousness. The shadow walker takes it one step further, and he is doing projecting his body spiritually into what he's wanting to do to you, mostly an attack. Or they can also project themselves into your homes at night and do the placement of spells. Now that's why I warn people from time to time. It's a good idea, my friends, to check your property, check your house, look for something that should not be there. If that's something you find something that should not be there, you better look at it more than twice because it could be something put there to harm you. Because when they place these things, they are actually contracting you with whatever spell or whatever it is they're doing. It's a contractual thing. In other words, my friends, once they put this on you or your property or whatever that situation is, you own it. It's yours then. And this is the way the shadow walker does. This is the victims that he may do. He may come into your house or he may put something on you or plant something on you. I have even had cases, my friends, where people have been marked by shadow walkers. They will put magical marks on people. They will put magical marks on their houses and all that. And that was a magical mark connection to that thing that attacked me on the stairs. I found out later there was an inside pentagram put there by that dark warlock on that property as a symbol, as a signal. They call these signals and wards. They are very powerful symbols of evil most of the time. They're never usually good. They're always evil or doing something bad to you in some way or another. This is another aspect of the liminal thing I talked about. They are able to slip in the cracks of your house. They are able to slip into the little places in your life that you may not really truly realize what they're doing. This is the way they operate. Be very careful who you trust in your life. They could possibly be a shadow walker after midnight. You never know. And that's one reason why I got tagged as the Midnight Hunter. I always know that dark things usually begin after midnight. That's when they usually go from midnight until 4 a.m. That's the hours of the darkness. This is the abode and when shadow walkers are definitely doing their work. Okay. And at 4 a.m., usually, if you keep, unless you keep like, LordeStarfox and I, you keep weird hours. If you're usually on a regular schedule, you will be deep, deep in sleep at 4 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock or somewhere in there. A lot of people, and I've had this happen to me. Sometimes, if you wake up in the night for no reason, you look at the clock and it's 3:33, or it's 4:44, or you got some kind of weird number thing going on here. That may be a warning, my friends, that there could be a shadow walker in the neighborhood. If you wake up like that for no reason, especially if you smell like something burning, or there's some kind of a sulfur-like smell going on when you wake up, or if there's a noise, and these things will make a noise sometimes. They are inhabiting physical space. I've had many cases where I have actually confronted demonic spirits and cast them out of places. They will make a terrible noise when they leave. It'll be like a big bang or something. They never go out usually quietly because they're full of so much darkness. They don't leave in a nice way. These are not nice guys. They're not going to treat you that way. They're always, on the side of darkness, bad things, and they can be downright ugly when they want to be. Absolutely, in many different ways. And so is the shadow walker. If they can, attack you in your sleep or visit your house while you sleep, that does not make you feel good. I know. And there are certain things you can do, however, to guard and safeguard yourself against these shadow walkers that you do to your house. That's with the placement of blessed salt. Holy water is good. Garlic is definitely good, and it's not just for vampires, folks. Okay, witches don't like it either. Another thing they do not like is iron. Yes, that can be like a horseshoe or an iron nail. One of the situation, I always like to keep a piece of iron next to my bed. They usually don't like to mess with you if there's some iron around, whichever the case may be. If there's some kind of iron there, they tend to like, maybe leave and go on somewhere else. They don't like it. And fairies don't like it. Evil fairies supposedly don't like it either. Anything that, that's usually in darkness or walks in darkness does not particularly like silver and iron. Those are the two things that he doesn't really like. And there's certain woods too that they don't like, and certain herbs like rosemary and stuff like that. You need to learn these things. Do your research in them. These are things you can safeguard yourself with, and definitely when it comes, and we have here in South Carolina where I live, we have a very extraordinary creature called the boo hag, which is really a shadow walker to a certain extent, almost like a vampire type thing. And the shadow walker has many things in common with a vampire and the werewolf, because the shadow walker can appear as animals. That's where you get into the skinwalker type thing, okay? But they are taking it one step, like I said, they are one step above your average skinwalker because these guys are very, very, very dark magic, very evil, dark intent behind what they're doing. And I'm talking about, like I said before, they walk in the liminal places, the in between places, with the equinox. That's where they live. They live in that in between space, those liminal places. Be very, very careful if you ever get in a place like that, and that can be places like, like I said before, bridges, mountain passes, crossroads, cemeteries, places like that. When you go into these areas, you need to ratchet it up a couple of times with the safeguards. You need to be very leery, be very cautious where you're at because you might just fall into the crosshairs of their targeting device. And these guys are not good to play with. They can very, very badly affect you and harm you. The Shadow Walker is very dangerous, folks. You're not playing with an amateur. You're playing with an expert when it comes to the Shadow Walker. We're talking about shape-shifting, definitely, whichever way you look at it. And the Shadow Walker can do that. Your average Skinwalker, that's why they call him Skinwalker. He's a shapeshifter. And that's what werewolves are. They're shapeshifters. Vampires are shapeshifters. You know, a lot of people don't really, they keep thinking, forgetting about that. But vampires are very good at shapeshifting. Very much like skinwalkers, shadow walkers, and all this other stuff we're talking about. And there is a shadow walker called Shadow Wolf. The Shadow Wolf really can appear as something like, a dogman or a werewolf, and it can do things like that, but it's mostly made of what you're looking at is like a shadow entity. It's like a shadow person, but it's taking the form of a wolf. And or a dog. It can be like a dog sometimes too. I've had instances, and I'm gonna tell you the freaky thing here, my friend. I've had a lot of cases when I have been vampire hunting or werewolf hunting or just other types of cryptids when all of a sudden, for no reason at all, a dog will show up. And it's usually a big dog, like a German Shepherd or something like that. And here's the other weird thing, and this has happened to me a dozen times or more. It's a big white German Shepherd. It's out of nowhere. I remember one time I was doing a very interesting vampire hunt in the cemetery one night, and I saw something white moving out among the tombstones. I said, well, what the heck is this? Is this my quarry? Is this the vampire I've been looking for? So I get the flashlight. Of course, I'm always armed just in case. But I walk out into the cemetery and I'm looking around, and it is a perfect movie type of a setting. It is a dark, very dark, foggy night out in the cemetery. Okay. And I'm looking around and trying not to turn my flashlight on too much, not to spook off whatever's going on here or whatever. And you can get in some places, my friends. It can be very dark, and we have only regular human eyesight. So you have to be very careful how you move. And you're in a dangerous situation, not just with the supernatural, but you can fall. You can do that, and especially in cemeteries, because you got some little low foot markers sometimes. So you have to be very careful. Okay. So I'm out there looking around in this dark, foggy, eerie looking cemetery. And I mean, it's got mausoleums everywhere and all this stuff. And I'm looking around, and all of a sudden, I turned the flashlight on, and sitting there is this great big German Shepherd, solid white. And he's sitting there on his back, on his haunches, looking at me. You know. Well, now I'm a dog person. I love animals of all kinds. I'm a big animal person. So they usually love me. They will usually come up and initiate contact with me when I'm just one of those kind of people. And I've had birds do that. I've had squirrels do that. They come up to me, and I'm sitting there looking, and I said, and I kind of, come here, boy, come here, because they're real pretty looking German Shepherd, but there was something eerie and uncanny about him. He just sat there and looked at me, just stared at me. He didn't act like the tail didn't wag. There was no movement at all. It was almost just like it was some kind of a hologram or something sitting there out of nowhere, out in the middle of this cemetery, in the middle of this vampire hunt. Here he shows up. And I've often wondered about that. Was it somehow connected with the vampire? Or was this some type of shadow walker or shadow wolf? That was the freaky thing about it. And so I kind of backed up a few paces, and I was going to kind of walk around him. And here's the weird part. He got up like he was going to walk off. And so as I walked around a big tombstone there, I looked, and he was completely gone. And there was no way through that whole cemetery that he could not have walked off without me seeing him. Where did that dog go? I thought. And I kind of started looking around a little bit, but I didn't want to waste any more time. So I didn't want to get too far from where my surveillance was taking place. And yes, I was staking out a vampire, pun intended, okay? That way, without a wooden stake, of course. Anyway, that dog was just gone. And now it could have just got away from me, and I just did. But I'll give it the benefit of the doubt. Well, I've had owls show up. I mean, I remember coming back one night just before dawn, and I'm going down the road. It's out in the country, it's way out in the middle of nowhere. And I see something in the road, and I stop, and it's the biggest owl. I mean, he was at least looked like he was 3 foot tall. He was a big, huge owl sitting in the middle of the road staring at me. I had to stop my car. And when I stopped my car, I said, I'm going to get out and take a closer look at this. So I get out of my truck. I open the door, get out of the truck, And before I could put my foot on pavement, that owl took off and flew off into the night over me like a ghost. I mean, it was gone. That was freaking. I've had that happen on several more occasions. I've walked out of houses that I've investigated or areas on it, and sitting up on the roof will be an owl looking back at me. So when you start encountering animals like this, out in the middle of nowhere, places where they really shouldn't be, you've got to wonder, my friends, are you encountering a shadow wolf or a shadow walker of some sort, or a skinwalker that's got his eyes on you? What's going on here? You got to wonder. What may be going down with that situation, because these things can do that, and yes, they can absolutely appear as dogmen or werewolves, but they have the appearance of one, but they may not be the actual thing. Okay, because they're projecting what they want you to see. There's that glamour again, see. And if you got Dogman on your mind, or you're looking for a werewolf, that's open ground to them. They say, hey, well, I will project myself that way, to scare you or to do whatever it is they want to do to you. Because their main goal, you must always remember this, and what makes them so doubly downright dangerous, is they are seeking absolute control over you and your reality. And that, my friends, is never ever a good thing, and it never ever has usually a good outcome at the end of it. I'll end this little thing tonight, this discourse about the shadow walkers, the shadow wolves, and whatever name you want to give them. I will end it with this. Be very, very careful as you walk through this world, my friends. Be very careful how you take things in the dark of the night, because they may not always appear to be what you think they are, what they show themselves to be. And that is the most dangerous attribute of all when you deal with the supernatural. You never can get you off guard. Always expect the unexpected. You got to do that, because that's probably what you're going to get. Okay. And when it comes to the shadow walker, if you think you have encountered something like that, or you think you may have that in your neighborhood at night, then there is help available. You can contact me or people that know these things that I do, that know a lot about the occult and the supernatural. Contact us, let us know, reach out to us. We can help you sometimes. We can definitely give you advice of what you need to do and how to protect yourself. That's the first thing you need to start thinking about. Getting help to combat the darkness and to push back against it. And you definitely need to do that. Don't leave it unaddressed, because if you do, you're opening yourself up to some very bad stuff somewhere down the line. So it's a good idea to reach out to that. And of course, you can reach me. You can get in contact with me. I do counseling for the supernatural and the demonic and all that stuff all over the world. I've had many cases over the years. Been doing this for over half a century now, and I've always dedicated myself to helping people in these situations. So if you ever have this, or someone you know is bothered about something like this, please reach out to me. You can contact me at denniswcarroll.com or denniswcarroll@gmail.com. That's my email. You can reach me that way. And also, my books are available on Barnes and Noble. Yes, I have several books for sale, and they're also available at Amazon, either in the hardback or the paperback or the Kindle. Okay, so you can check that out. I would appreciate it. And please, anyone listening to this, visit me over at Hunting the Shadows YouTube podcast channel and agency. That's Hunting the Shadows. Come on over, join us. We would love to have you there, and join up and subscribe. And we have some very fantastic shows. We're having guests on there. We hook up with great people like my friend LordeStarfox about a lot of different subjects and things having to deal with the supernatural and the paranormal. I have 3 shows a week. I have The Road Less Traveled on Monday night at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hunting the Shadows Wednesday night at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And Paranormal Point of View Friday night at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Yes, they're all at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Hunting the Shadows. Join us over there on that channel. Subscribe. You will be glad you did. Okay, and we thank you so very much for letting me be here, Lord Star Fox. and sharing some of this stuff with you. Be careful out there, my friends. Keep your head on a swivel. Keep an eye on your six. You never know just what you may encounter out there in the darkness.
Ooh, my legendary creatures of the night. I do adore every single one of you. And thank you for hanging out with us. Please like, comment, subscribe. Check out the good old merch store down below. And remember, monsters are realer than you can imagine.